Druids' lost wisdom shaped ancient Europe. Introduction. What if the ancient forests once echoed not just with birdsong and wind, but with a sacred language spoken not with words, but with vibration, symbol, and silence? What if the moss-covered stones, the megalithic circles, and the misty groves of old Britain still hum with secrets that modern eyes cannot see? Long before the rise of Rome or the spread of empire, there walked a class of mystics so revered, so feared, that even Caesar himself remarked on their profound influence. They were not kings, yet they guided rulers. They built no temples, yet their sanctuaries were the oak groves and moonlit clearings of the natural world. Their knowledge was passed not through parchment, but through memory, myth, and mystery. These were the Druids, keepers of ancient wisdom, guardians of spiritual law, and intermediaries between the worlds of men, nature, and the divine. But despite their immense power and influence, almost everything we know about them has been shrouded in secrecy, distorted by conquerors, or lost to time. And yet, traces remain. In the whispers of folklore, in the standing stones that align with the stars, in the cycles of nature that modern science is only beginning to understand. The teachings of the Druids were not destroyed, they were hidden, like seeds beneath the soil, waiting for the right season to awaken. In this video, we will uncover the hidden teachings of the Druids, not the surface-level myths, but the deeper spiritual truths they carried. We'll explore how they saw the soul, how they communed with the spirit of nature, and how they worked with cycles of time, sound, and sacred geometry. You'll learn why they refused to write down their teachings, what it means to live in alignment with the On, and how their knowledge might still be accessed today. This is not history, it is a reawakening. Let us now step beyond the veil, into the grove of living wisdom. The teachings are waiting. Historical, philosophical context. To understand the Druids is to peer through the mists of time into a world where the sacred and the natural were not separate things, but one living essence. They did not see the forest as merely trees, nor the sky as just air and clouds. To the Druid, everything was alive, imbued with consciousness. Rocks, rivers, animals, even the unseen wind carried messages from the divine. The Druids emerged from the Celtic world, which once stretched across much of Europe from Ireland to Iberia, Gaul to Galatia. But it was in the British Isles, especially in what we now call Ireland, Wales, and parts of Scotland, that their influence endured the longest. They were more than priests, they were judges, healers, astronomers, poets, magicians, and philosophers of the soul. They held knowledge that transcended caste or class. Even kings bowed before them. Roman sources especially, Julius Caesar wrote of the Druids with a mix of awe and political suspicion. In his Commentarii de Bello Gallico, Caesar observed that the Druids were exempt from military service and taxation, and yet wielded immense authority over spiritual and legal matters. They studied for up to 20 years, mastering not only law and lore, but also the cycles of nature, the movement of the stars, and the mysteries of life and death. But what made the Druids truly unique was not just their knowledge, it was how they preserved it. They refused to write down their sacred teachings, believing that wisdom should be carried in the living mind and guarded by memory, song, and symbol. This ensured that only the most dedicated could access their inner circle, but it also made them vulnerable. When the Roman Empire sought to dismantle Celtic culture, Druidic knowledge became a threat and was systematically suppressed. Much of what we know today comes from second-hand sources. Roman accounts, Christian scribes, and oral traditions passed down in disguised form through myth and folklore. Yet beneath the surface of these stories lie esoteric code-hidden threads that point to deeper truths. Take, for instance, the triads of Whale's short poetic sayings that encode profound spiritual and philosophical insights. Or the Ogham, an ancient alphabet that was not just a system of writing but a spiritual tool, linking letters to trees, energies, and natural forces. Central to the Druidic worldview was the concept of a Wina Welsh term meaning inspiration or divine breath. Alwyn was not merely artistic muse. It was a living current of spiritual energy flowing from the source of all being. To receive Alwyn was to align oneself with cosmic harmony, to speak with the voice of the universe itself. Equally important was their understanding of cycles. Druids observed the solar and lunar patterns, celebrated the turning of the seasons, and saw death not as an end, but a transformation. The year was a sacred wheel, and within its turning they saw the same rhythms echoed in human life, in spirit and in soul. But beyond myth and nature worship, the Druids held a deeper truth that the universe is a living consciousness, and we are not separate from it, but participants in its unfolding story. Their teachings were not merely intellectual, they were embodied, experiential, and deeply transformational. As we continue, we will begin to unravel these core teachings. The structure of their spiritual philosophy, their mystical use of trees, sound, geometry, and how they accessed realms beyond the physical. Much has been forgotten, but enough remains for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Let us now step further into the sacred grove. Unlock Druids' reality views. Unlike modern systems that divide spirit and matter, the Druids saw all things as interwoven strands of one vast conscious tapestry. Their knowledge was holistic, experiential, and symbolic. They didn't just study nature, they became one with it, listening to the whispers of trees, the movement of stars, the pulse of the earth beneath their feet. At the center of their spiritual worldview was the tree not just as a biological organism, but as a cosmic symbol, a map of the human soul and the universe itself. Many Druids believed that each tree held its own spirit, intelligence, and resonance. This understanding formed the basis of the Oghamon ancient Celtic system, where each letter corresponded not only to a sound, but to a specific tree and its spiritual properties. For example, birch, Baith, represented beginnings, purification, and renewal. Oak, Duir, symbolized strength, endurance, and the doorway between worlds. Yew, Edo, was tied to death, transformation, and eternal life. By meditating on these trees, invoking their names, or even carving their symbols onto stones or wood, Druids could align themselves with specific forces of nature and spirit. Each tree was a teacher, a guardian, and a living embodiment of sacred knowledge. But the teachings of the Druids were not limited to the forest. They were mathematicians of mystery, attuned to sacred geometry and cosmic alignment. The placement of ancient megalithic sites such as Stonehenge, Avebury, and Callanish was no accident. These structures are not just monuments, they are resonant instruments, built to harmonize with the sun, moon, and stars. The Druids understood the power of place. They knew that certain geographical locations carried specific energy lines, telluric currents, and subtle vibrations that could be felt by the attuned. Rituals were not performed randomly. They were enacted in harmony with the cosmos at precise moments in the solar-lunar calendar. Speaking of ritual, sound played a crucial role in their practice. The voice was seen as a magical tool, and words, when properly intoned, could shape reality. They chanted in rhythm with the heartbeat of the land, using sound to enter altered states of consciousness, to heal, to protect, or to invoke spiritual forces. The ancient bardic tradition wasn't simply poetic, it was magical. A true bard was not merely a performer, but a weaver of energy through sound. This leads us to another core Druidic concept, the triad. Much of their wisdom was structured in threes, a number symbolizing balance, harmony, and divine order. We see this in the three realms: revered, the realm of physical experience, of trial and incarnation; Gwynfeed, the realm of spiritual illumination and harmony; Shugant, the boundless source, the infinite light beyond all comprehension. These realms were not static locations, but states of consciousness, levels of soul evolution. The Druidic path was not about escaping the world, but awakening through it, moving from ignorance to knowledge, from chaos to order, from fragmentation to unity. And threading through all of this was a Wenthy breath of inspiration, the divine flow. When a druid invoked Awen, they weren't just asking for creativity. They were aligning themselves with the pulse of the cosmos, becoming a channel through which divine wisdom could flow. In poetic form, it was expressed like this: I am a wind on the sea. I am a wave of the ocean. I am a stag of 7 tines. This wasn't metaphor, it was identity dissolution, a merging with the elements, an expression of divine consciousness awakening in form. These teachings, though obscured by time, still live in the earth, the wind, the stars, and in you. But this is only the beginning. In the next section, we will go deeper into the rituals, initiations, and psychic technologies the Druids used to access other realms and shape the world from the unseen. To truly walk the path of the Druid was not merely to learn nature's laws, it was to become a conscious participant in the unfolding of existence itself. Their practices were not theoretical musings, but carefully honed systems for transforming consciousness and interfacing with the invisible dimensions of reality. Let us begin with their initiatory structure, which was not unlike that of a sacred mystery school. The Druidic path unfolded in 3 levels, echoing their reverence for triads: the Bard, keeper of stories, memory, and sacred sound; the Ovate, healer, seer, and master of nature's cycles; the Druid, philosopher-priest, one who sees the unseen and speaks with the voice of the divine. Each level was more than a role, it was a transmutation of the self. The Bard did not simply recite poems. They encoded memory and vibration, preserving ancestral knowledge through song. The Ovate did not simply study plants. They could sense the spirit of a herb, attune to the essence of a tree, and read omens in the movement of clouds and birds. The Druid, at the highest level, was a bridge between worlds, equally at home in the Council of Kings or the silence of the otherworld. One of the most profound teachings of the Druids was their understanding of the veil between worlds. They believed in multiple dimensions, which could be accessed through ritual, nature, or altered states of awareness. These were not metaphorical realms, they were living realities, populated by spirits, ancestors, and archetypal intelligences. The festival calendar known today as the Wheel of the Year was not just a cultural practice, it was a portal system. Samhain, October 31, marked the thinning of the veil, when the dead could speak and the future could be glimpsed. Imbolc was a time of awakening, purification, and inner light. Beltane, the fire festival of fertility and vitality, ignited the life force of the land. Lughnasadh, the first harvest, honored the balance between sacrifice and abundance. Each of these festivals was a spiritual checkpoint, a moment when the inner and outer worlds were more fluid, Rituals were timed to these celestial gate-spawn fires, lit not just for warmth, but to summon divine presence and burn away what no longer served. But the most mysterious aspect of Druidic knowledge was their use of non-ordinary consciousness. There is strong evidence, both in folklore and modern reconstructions, that Druids used plant medicine, fasting, sleep deprivation, rhythmic drumming, and deep meditation to enter the otherworldly realm of vision, prophecy, and healing. This otherworld, unlike the underworld of later Christianized myth, was not a place of punishment. It was a mirror dimension, rich with symbolic language and archetypal encounters. To enter it was to face oneself to converse with spirit guides, receive visions, and bring back knowledge for the tribe. Their visions were not indulgences, they had practical consequence. A vision might guide the planting of crops, the making of alliances, or the healing of disease. The Druid became a conduit through which cosmic intelligence flowed into the human world. And then there was sound again, not as entertainment, but as technology. The use of chanting, intonation, and incantation was central. Specific sounds could alter consciousness, heal illness, and attune a person to elemental energies. The sacred syllable Awen itself is still used today by modern Druidic practitioners to invoke inspiration and spiritual connection. But there was another reason their teachings were so secret: power and responsibility. They believed that certain knowledge could destroy as easily as it could heal. That words once spoken were spells, shaping reality at subtle levels. This is why they encoded their teachings in symbol, metaphor, and myth, trusting only the worthy to decipher them. And yet, here we are, in an age when the veils are thinning again, when modern science is beginning to rediscover what ancient wisdom has always known, that consciousness is fundamental, that nature is intelligent, and that we are far more than flesh and bone. We are spirit clothed in form. The Druid did not worship nature, they listened to it, became it, and lived in alignment with its rhythms. Their teachings were not superstition. They were keys to unlock the divine blueprint encoded in every leaf, every breath, every star. In the next section, we'll explore how you can apply these ancient principles in your own life to awaken the Druid within, to walk the sacred path of nature and spirit, and to once again hear the voice of Awen whispering through the trees.